I like oddball 3D printing filaments, which is why today I'm going to be featuring Gizmo Dorks Bronze PLA on Freaky Filaments. In case you were wondering, you didn't miss episode 1 of Freaky Filaments. This is episode 1 of Freaky Filaments. We're doing it. This is it. You're watching. Way to go. And boy, is this first one a doozy. So in this series, I want to take a look at some oddball or exotic 3D printing filaments. The type of stuff that you probably wouldn't rush out to buy for yourself without some foreknowledge. Foreknowledge that I intend to supply you with. First up in this series is going to be Gizmo Dorks Bronze Powder PLA Filament. And spoiler alert, it doesn't go super well.
Freaky deaky.
First things first, when I say that this is bronze filament, I mean that there's actually bronze in the filament. It's a mixture of PLA or polylactic acid and bronze powder. So that means it should look like bronze, and more importantly for my purposes, you should be able to create a patina on the surface by allowing it to oxidize or age. And that is the part that I'm really excited about. So let's see how this thing prints. I'm going to print out this lion versus crocodile model because it just looks like a statue that would look really good in bronze. Just feels right.
Let's get down to business.
I printed this on the Matterhackers Pulse XE because that thing has an Olsson Ruby nozzle that is basically indestructible, and I suspect that the metal in this filament would cause significant wear and tear to any non-fortified nozzle. Now, Gizmo Dorks claims you can use any standard slicer profile for PLA. You can print it like any other filament, basically. I think they're wrong. In my testing, that was not the case at all. I experienced constant jams. And it's the same as you would get from any other powder mix-in type filament, like wood filament, for example. And that's where that powder has a tendency to kind of build up in the tip of the nozzle, so that when the printer does a retract move, it just jams, and that's the end of that print. No, nothing you can do about that. Now, after disabling retraction entirely, the same as I would for a wood filament, I was able to get some successful prints out of this thing. Now, how do they look, though? That's the real question.
How did it go?
Fine, I guess. I mean, without retraction, it prints fine. But that's the thing. Having to turn off retraction means having to deal with a whole ton of stringing, which is a lot of extra cleanup that you shouldn't have to do. A bunch of extra oozing and nastiness. And when you turn retraction back on, like you would for any other filament, instead of your benchy looking like this, you're going to get one that looks like this. Or maybe even just this single little layer. But you know what? I'll consider this all worth it as long as it takes a patina. I will suffer through some troublesome filament as long as I get a unique end result.
Okay, this is the really exciting part.
The method I've heard about the most is using a mixture of distilled white vinegar and regular old table salt. You just mix in as much salt as you can possibly get into that vinegar and then either soak or spritz that model overnight. Now, by the next morning, you should see a beautiful greenish patina. With this filament, you get absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. I figured surely I must be the problem here. I must have done something wrong. So I wanted to eliminate human error from this next experiment, and the way to do that was to purchase a product called Liver of Sulfur Gel. Now, it's a terrible name for a product, but it is meant specifically and exclusively to create a patina in metals, including bronze, and I've also heard from other YouTubers that it works with metal-infused 3D printing filaments, which is what I'm doing. If anything is going to work, it's going to be this. Now, to give myself the absolute best possible chance of success, I also roughed up the surface of the print with a stainless steel brush. That gives it more surface area and hopefully exposes a little bit more of that bronze inside of that filament so that we get a good result. Now, the instructions claim that it should be an instantaneous result. Utilizing the distilled mixture that they recommend, I saw nothing. Absolutely nothing happened. So I went as far as to actually brush on the concentrated, undiluted form of this sulfur gel and saw absolutely no result. Nothing happened. I was finally starting to suspect that I wasn't the problem here because that should have done the trick. There's no way that should have not worked. So I went all out and tried one last Hail Mary and I dumped acetone all over this thing. And it did nothing. Well, it did something actually. It coated it in sort of a white, crusty type substance. It's kind of snowy now, and I hate it. It is gross. That doesn't just brush off easily. It's just white now. And you know what? Good. I'm glad it's white. I'm glad I ruined it.
Case closed. Justice served.
The good metal-infused filaments typically have 25% metal powder to 75% PLA. This stuff is closer to like 5% bronze powder. There's not enough in there for it to do anything other than give it a little bit of color and make it impossible to print with. This stuff is absolute garbage. I hate this with all of my heart and soul because it's difficult to print with and for no actual benefit. I could find filament that's basically this color. This isn't going to shine up like bronze should. It's not going to look like metal. It doesn't take a patina like metal. And it prints like trash. Why would you bother? Look, the good stuff is something called protopasta, and it's more expensive for a reason because that stuff does have a good mixture. And at this point, you can probably expect I'm going to be picking it up in the near to immediate future so I can redeem this series with something you might actually want to buy. Because again,
this is Doodle Poo Poo.
Please don't buy this. I'm flubbing. And I'm on a flow and I'm flubbing. I'm flubbing my flow. I think they're lying to you. I think they know what they're doing. I think they're... All right. To create a pee-pee.